But they haven't played in 3 days. They played on the 16th was their last game.
Didn't play well in their last game.
And they didn't. So you know you're going to get a good effort from them tonight. And they're playing with revenge. St. Louis beat them earlier in the year. Here's a stat for Toronto the last 2 seasons. When playing with revenge, 41-21.
9-2 this season.
And here's another one for you. They're 9-1 on the road this season in non-conference games. I'm on Toronto in this one. I never like to step in front of a streak, so that's why I'm not going to be playing it, but I like the Toronto side.
It's been a busy day at Superbook USA. It's always busy down there, but even busier today because of the Padres signing of Manny Machado. Jeff Sherman joining us right now to talk about a lot of things. We already talked about the number adjustments at the Superbook with the Machado signing. Has there been any betting on that, Jeff? Has anybody stepped up to the window and said, I'm excited about the Padres, here's some money?
Well, we saw some initial play. We took some over 76.5 as the news was breaking. Made our initial adjustment, got up as high as 79.5 on the win total, and then we got some under money, 79.5 against probably some places that weren't moving the number quite as quickly. So a little bit of play there. I did adjust the World Series odds on San Diego from 80 to 50, and then we had a flurry of activity at 50 to 1. So some people thought that I didn't adjust it enough, but there's always some play anytime you have a major name move.
And in addition to that, I mean, spring training is now underway. Teams are in camp. We're going to have exhibition games starting in a couple of days, and those games will be bettable at Superbook USA. And also, you guys have got a ton of stuff available now as far as futures and props and all kinds of stuff like that.
Oh, I can't even tell you how much stuff we got up. Randy did a magnificent job with it. We got division odds, season wins, player props, home runs by players, pitching wins by players, index props, team to have the most wins, head-to-head matchups. There's just so many things up. It's basically a mini Super Bowl packet with 12 to 15 pages. And if you look through this stuff on the app, it's going to take you quite a while, but there are a lot of interesting things.
See, now, Marco, when you're down in spring training in a couple of weeks, what's going to be, I mean, you can still, you can't bet while you're in Arizona, but you can sit there and scan all the, the props and stuff like that, and just baseball fever. You got it already, don't you?
I will. I'll be having my plays ready for when I get back, that's for sure. Or I can't send the wife down. You've never seen her make bets. Who knows what I would come back with. Jeff, switching over to NBA, we're about a couple days away from the second half of the season off the All-Star break. You've got the Lakers playoff prop. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we decided to get it up with the prolonged break. They have over a week off, so we put it up pick 'em, sitting in a position they are 2.5, 3 games back of the ace spot. And immediately we got a lot of sharp play that drove it all the way up as high as no minus 145 on making the playoffs. And then today I took a decent wager on the yes, so settled back down to no minus 125 at this point. But, this is always a polarizing prop. We did this a few years back when the Lakers had Dwight Howard and were sitting out of the playoffs and got a lot of support on it. So we decided to throw it up during this break. The action's been fast and furious. We're probably going to keep it up a little longer than the break. I don't know how long we'll go with it, but, people ask why I don't do the Kings or the Clippers or things like that. There's just no comparison to the money that you get on a prop with the Lakers.
No, I mean, the Lakers, it's the Laker town, at least until we get an NBA team here. Which is probably an inevitability at this point. But until they arrive, the Lakers are still the best NBA show in town. Do you have an opinion as to whether they'll make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, my price when we were all discussing it, I had no $1.50. And the one problem I have with it is we saw them get blown out in Indiana. And I know that was before the trade deadline. It affected the young guys. But then the loss to Atlanta right before the break, that was a terrible loss. It was one they really needed to win. And I could see more losses like that in the second half, maybe at Memphis, something that they're supposed to win. I think they have somewhat of a fractured locker room from all the trade talk that was going on, and I'd be leery to think that they're in position to make it.
I know you can't do it, but you should put a side prop up. Will Luke Walton still be there by season's end?
Well, he's going to be there at the end of the season, but then in the off season he will not be there. So there will be a coaching change after the season's done.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Marvin Menzies might be available.
Oh, no.
Okay. The Bucks are still getting I'm becoming more convinced that, they're 8-1. They're the second choice behind the Warriors And I think I'm starting to believe it, especially with the pickup with Mirotic. I think they are the second best team, or the best team in the East, let's put it that way, and that might make them the second best team overall.
Yeah, well, that's what the perception is right now. And the top 4 teams in the East right now are rated right behind Golden State before any other Western team. I pretty much have it a toss-up between the 4 teams in the East. It wouldn't surprise me any of them that would come out of it. But right now, from the odds perspective and the betting perspective, Milwaukee and Toronto are ahead of Philadelphia and Boston, and the support is showing that way.
I won't say that they can do it, but if you look the last couple of years, the one team that has given Golden State problems when they've played has been Milwaukee. Milwaukee's played them tough. A few games, they only play twice a year, but they have given them some battles.
Yeah, the one thing is, health forbidden. It's the Warriors, if they don't have any injuries, they're not going to lose 4 games out of 7 to anyone this year. I just can't see that. And I think they can even afford an injury as long as it's not Steph Curry. He means more to that team than anybody. We've seen how the Warriors perform without Curry, and they struggle. But if you remove Durant or another player, Curry in there, they're still capable of winning it. But if that team's healthy, I can't see another team beating them 4 out of 7.
And there's the difference between the NBA and the NHL in a sense, because I think Tampa Bay is clearly the best team in the National Hockey League, and I don't know that many people are going to disagree with that. But the NHL playoffs are so tough, so demanding, so grueling, that there's just no sure thing. It's not like the NBA playoffs. It's just tougher. And so the Lightning, despite the fact that they are the clear favorites right now, you can still get plus 400 on them to win the Cup.
Yeah, they've actually just been bet down to 7-2. We've been getting a flurry of activity at 4-1. And, the tough thing about these NHL playoffs, I'm not a proponent of this format. Look, you're going to have Toronto and Boston most likely playing in the first round.
Yeah.
And that could be an Eastern Conference final, and then the winner getting Tampa. It's just such a grueling road that you have to go through that I really don't think anyone should be too short, but we're getting plenty of support on Tampa at 4-1 that we had to lower it. And, we did ease the Knights out to 12-1 with the struggles that they're on right now.
Yeah, and the buzz is that they're not going to be buying at the deadline. That's now pretty much common knowledge. They're just not going to go overboard to get a free agent that they might not be able to re-sign in the offseason. And I think that's the smart move, to be honest with you. I would not mortgage the future for a guy now because, honestly, they're just not good enough, I don't think, to win the Cup. But, if you want to take a shot on the local team, at least now you got a nice payback.
Yeah, the only problem with it is there's so much liability at the books that we're sitting at 12-1, and if we didn't have a liability or they were the local team, we'd have them at 20-1.
Yeah.
So you're not getting what you should be getting just because there's so many people that are involved and have been involved all year that we have to watch the liabilities on them and at the same time raise some other teams that aren't getting it.
Dave, just back to Tampa Bay for 1 second. The thing that you said is they're clearly the best team.
Oh, they are the best team in the league.
The one thing about hockey, more so than any other sport, it is the one sport that can be dominated by one player.
And they happen to have the best goalie in the league,
too. They do, but any other team gets a goalie that goes on a run, stands on his head for a series or two, can make a run to the Stanley Cup Finals.
And that's why I know the Sharks, they've got a heck of a team, but I got to tell you, I look at them, Jeff, and I watched them last night. Their goaltending stinks. Okay, Martin Jones is a below-average number 1 goaltender, and I look at San Jose and, give me the futures against them. I'm probably going to be lined up against them. I hope that the Golden Knights get them in the playoffs because Vegas can beat San Jose because Fleury is way better than Martin Jones. And, that to me is the key to future betting in the NHL is you got to find a team with a goalie that's really capable of going on a big run.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, there's something about San Jose that they're just missing. And, it wouldn't surprise me if they try to do a trade before the trade deadline. Yeah. I know Columbus is shopping their goalie.
Yep.
And he could end up there, and Jones could be the backup. So, I don't think these teams will rest on their laurels. You mentioned the Knights might, but there's going to be some activity coming up soon.
What in the world happened to one of the best players in the world on Sunday? Oh, what a melt by Justin Thomas. You don't expect to see that. And that sets us up for more excitement this weekend at the WGC Mexico. It turned into a heck of a tournament on Sunday because we had a come from behind, and it was J.B. Holmes, who might be the slowest player in the entire universe, but he got the win. What does this weekend's action look like?
Yeah, well, from last weekend, that was a tough situation because of the weather delays. It turned into a long Sunday, and then the wind kicked up in the afternoon, and it affected the greens, and that's where Thomas got caught, and some of the other guys just ended up doing better than he did in those conditions. But, that leads into this week where in different conditions now, it's supposed to be respectable down there condition-wise, and Thomas is a 10-1 favorite along with Dustin Johnson, and he's already seen some betting support. And with the WGC event, it's a solid field of 72 golfers. We've had a couple changes. Ryan Fox is the latest addition to it, replacing Andrew Putnam, but it's a quality field down there. They played this course. It's going to be the third year that they're on this course, so minimal history to go on, but there's elevation down there, so it's going to help the long hitters. The course is going to play really short with the extra elevation.
Heading over to the UFC on ESPN, they debuted this week. How was the action for it? And this looks like a good mix, putting the UFC on ESPN.
Yeah, it was a little bit less than we normally see just because it was on a Sunday card when they tend to be on Saturdays, and that's what most of the bettors are used to. We see a little bit higher handle then, but it was just slightly down. But when it's on TV and not have to do the pay-per-view aspect, it helps out. So it's pretty solid, and the UFC, it just keeps picking up. There's so much interest in that sport.
Well, and they're going to get coverage like they've never gotten before now because ESPN has a tendency to promote their products rather well. So you're going to be seeing a lot of UFC, and I think it's going to translate to lots of action at the windows, especially here in Las Vegas because it's a big UFC town as well. And it's a big soccer town. What do we got going this week?
Well, we're right in the middle of UEFA Champions League. The first round concluding this week, round of 16. We had a couple 0-0 draws today out of both matches, but tomorrow on TNT there's a nice quality one with Juventus at Atletico Madrid. The only thing is, this might be along the lines of what we saw today, very low scoring. The total on this match is 2. I think they're going to be hard-pressed to get to 3, especially you see that in the first leg of these matches, more of a feeling-out process, trying not to get too far behind, setting up. And I think Atletico Madrid might frustrate Cristiano Ronaldo in this match.
There really can't be a better time. If you want an example of why the app is so good and so necessary, you guys have so much stuff available right now across the board. You almost have to have the app just to digest it all.
I'm telling you, you look through this stuff with all the baseball that Randy got up, and it's better than reading a book. It can take you 3 or 4 hours to look through, and you have so many wagering options. It's just interesting material. So like we always mention, you don't need to have an account. You can just download it, look through everything we got up, and there's sure to be some things that pique your interest.
Yeah, and I'll just throw this in. If you're an NHL bettor, and I'm an NHL bettor, you get best prices in town, okay? It's as simple as that, best prices in town. Generally, you can save a nickel on a lot of favorites at the Superbook, and, that adds up during the course of the season because you are going to lose some games, and if you can lose 140 instead of 145, that stuff really helps. So just another reason to have an account.
Yeah, we have a 10-cent line in the NHL up to $1.40, and I think that's pretty unique to this town and even maybe outside of this town. So it's been well received, and we just try to treat it just like our baseball games with the dime line.
There you go. Good stuff as always, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Jeff Sherman. Follow him on Twitter at Golf Odds, and don't forget to stop down at the Superbook and sign up for your account. It'll only take you about maybe 10 minutes tops, and you'll be good to go. We'll come back. We'll get to our angle of the day, and then we're going to preview some more games, some rivalry stuff tonight to look at.
The Las Vegas Sports Line.
Hi, it's the Herd. I've had the best year ever making picks for the Blazing Five. Now I'm going to give you my top pick for 2019 and Vegas. Go to Ford Country in the Valley Auto Mall when you need a new car. Look, with all the free stuff they give, free registration, a free $500 Visa gift card with purchases of any new vehicle, you're easily going to walk out on top. Go to Ford Country in the Valley Auto Mall or just go to FordCountryLV.com and get your free stuff today. Tell them the Herd sent you.
Dave Cokin with John Lyons from Lyons Physical Therapy. So what are the most common injuries you see in your practice?
The primary injuries that we see are general neck and back pain. That's 100% the most frequent injuries we'll see. That can be anything from wear and tear, age-related injuries. Mm-hmm. We see a lot of work-related injuries where patients lift, bend, or twist the wrong way. These are also associated with car accidents. I would say secondarily, shoulder and knee injuries anything sports related or just everyday activities. Those would be the four main injuries that we